All right. Hello, hello, hello. We are live on LinkedIn for one more Women in Leadership and Empowerment Networking event. I am your host, Dr. Coylette James, just in case you don't know me. And I am so thrilled to be here with you today. We do this once a month. We have this networking session, and I really want to encourage you all to network while we're doing the panel, while we're talking. The point is to network. This is not one of those events where you're told don't post your links. Yes, post your links, because you never know who is joining you, who needs what you offer. And especially today, we're talking about our story. Your story is important. So post your links, post who you are. If you see somebody that posts something that may be important to you, then pull down that link, okay? That's what this is about. I come from Lioness Warrior Kingdom. In our motto is an empowered woman empowers the world. So as we're talking about empowerment in this networking event, your story is key to your empowerment. It's part of your uniqueness. It's who you were created to be. For those of you that may not understand me sometimes, I am a woman of faith. I usually put that out there just so that you understand the perspective that I'm coming from. It's not to push anything on you or anything like that. It's just so you understand. And from my perspective, I believe that God created you on purpose for a purpose, and your storyline fits into that purpose. So often we will look at our stories and have maybe regrets, or we wish that hadn't have happened, and maybe I should have made a different choice or decision, but it winds up being all part of your storyline. And it winds up empowering you to help somebody else who may just be going through something that you've experienced in the past. So, with all of that being said, two of my panelists are here. We have one more that'll join us in a little while, but life be lifing. And so she has something that kind of a little emergency that she had to attend to. But we are joined right now by Dr. Taffany and by Regina. And I'm going to ask Regina to go first and just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your story and where you are right now.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I am delighted to be here with you, ladies. Two power ladies, as I can already see immediately, and I think everybody can see. I'm Regina Huber. I am the CEO of Transform Your Performance. I'm a transformational leadership coach, inspirational speaker, and author of a few books. And I've lived and worked on 5 continents. Very eclectic experience, I would say. And today I help bold visionary leaders and teams create the life and the results they want and that are perfect for them anywhere in the world. In other words, to become thriving leaders with thriving teams. That's really my goal with my clients. So this eclectic experience has shaped me into this person that I am today. As Coylette just pointed out, our stories, they shape us. I think what's really important to also recognize is that for most of us, it's not always been a straight upward trend, right? The most successful people on this planet, and also us, it didn't all start at success, right? The successful people, most of them at least, they transformed their situations and their experiences into power. And so can you. And that's why we are here together, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely. I love that. I love the fact that it's not just a straight up. It's not just straight up. There are so many different things that we have to walk through, we have to go through to get to where we are today, and I just celebrated a birthday on Sunday. So like these 69 years have been like woo, 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 woo. Like, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for every one of those years. I'm even grateful for the experiences. And even though some of them may not have been really, really good, but they shaped me to be who I am today. And so I am grateful. I'm going to shout this out one more time, ladies, as you are joining us. Please, please feel free to post your links. This is a networking event. So I want you, it's not one of those, don't post your links. It is no, post your links, talk about yourself, put it out there, because that's what this is all about. And with that being said, Dr. Taffany, how are you, my love?
I am excited. I am encouraged already. I am just so thankful and grateful for the opportunity to come here and be with you on today. You're talking about a whirlwind. It's been truly a whirlwind, ups and downs, beautiful experiences over this past month for myself. So many different opportunities that God has opened up. And as you said, I also am a woman of faith. And I truly believe that all things do work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So a lot of what we go through, or I say grow through, is all in necessary sequence, believe it or not, for the purpose that we are created for. As you said, my name is Taffany Williams. I am an inspirational, motivational, whatever, coach, counselor, all of the above. I'm a filmmaker, an author, and all of the other stuff. Any opportunity I get to help people advance in their calling, whatever that may be, whether it be in media, whether it be in the workplace and marketplace, whether it be from a pulpit, wherever it is, helping women to step into that positive boldness, confident space of saying yes to whatever assignment is in front of them, and whatever way that I can help them in that, that's what I do. So I'm super excited to be here with you ladies on today, helping women to truly step into that space of leadership. We're all called into some spaces of leadership. And that is exactly what we are encouraging all people who are listening, watching now live or the replay, to truly, truly spend that time to pause, to pivot, to purge, and to shift into what it is that you are called to do in this season of your life. So excited to have this conversation today.
I love it. I love it. So, Regina, I mean, 5 continents, 5 continents, like, oh my goodness. Girl, the experiences that you have to have had in orchestrating your story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and in fact, last year I wrote that book that so many of my friends had always told me to write. Finally, I wrote it, Living My Freaking Amazing Life, it's called.
Hey.
And it's freaking amazing because it's mine, it's the life I am here to live as, and I understand myself as consciousness, as energy, and all the good stuff that we are as humans as well. So yeah, there's a bunch of stories and some crazy adventures too, I would say. Very entertaining book. Apart from being a leadership book, it's a lot about self-leadership and also the leadership of others. So it checks several boxes, the book. I'm very happy to have accomplished that finally. And so stories, I have plenty of stories. As I said before, all of this didn't start from success. Actually, I had a really successful leadership role at a global consulting firm. I was promoted literally into that role at 27, without any prior leadership background, expertise, studies, nothing. And it was a big surprise for me at the time. And I learned that by really coming from a place of being well-intentioned and from authenticity and wanting the best for my team and for everybody else that I interacted with, I could get this done, right? And over time, I was of course learning more, also studying certain things such as communication, which is super important. But then there was a time in my life when I restarted literally from scratch. I had owned a business in Argentina by then, and then I had moved to Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, and I had an extremely painful business experience in Rio de Janeiro, one of the most beautiful places on this planet. I loved that place. However, I had a fraudulent business partner in Brazil. And that completely turned my world upside down. At the time, I had put all my money, all my savings, everything that I earned up until that point into my brick and mortar business. Lots of energy, time, effort. I had literally poured my entire heart into this business. And when I found out that this guy had taken money from one of our accounts, that's when we were actually about to open the business. It was literally like a couple of weeks before the housewarming party. So imagine the shock, right? Now, it turns out that this business couldn't have been really successful without his name, because that's what I needed for the business, for at least one part of it. So eventually I had to make that very, very tough decision to close the business down and dismantle it all. And at the time, of course, I felt miserable while I was in the middle of it. I won't lie. But I also, there was a moment when I decided that I had to really step out of that victim mode and into a self-empowering mindset. Now, I could have stayed stuck in anger, blame, and loss and self-resentment and all that, those emotions that do not really serve us. And for a while I did. But then at one point I realized that no one's going to come to rescue me. I had a choice. I either could stay in that story or write a new one. And that's when I started making the shift. And I moved from that victim mindset toward a self-empowering mindset, as I said before, taking responsibility for what had happened and acknowledging that it's us actually who create our reality.
Wow.
And although I might not have done it intentionally and consciously, I still had created it somehow. And that's when I realized that I could also create a different reality. And I slowly but surely moved in that direction. And then I also learned through this experience that the situation wasn't actually good or bad. Colette, you said earlier, you've also gone through experiences that were not necessarily maybe good. However, who's to say whether it's good or bad? It's just an experience. And once we actually turn it into a neutral event, that's when we can transform the event into meaning.
I like that.
And that's when we can see the hidden opportunity. And that's when eventually I decided to move to New York City and build a completely new chapter in my life and really rebuild that reality with intention, courage, and clarity. And that's how Transform Your Performance was eventually born. Not from one day to the next, I'm not going to lie. But yes, that was the start of it.
I love that. I thank you for that, because so many times we get into a place where we feel failure is the end of the story, or we don't see how we can rise up from whatever experience we have had. And I love that. I love that you took ownership for what it's like. You were not responsible for him being unethical, but at the same time, you took ownership of the situation and didn't stay in that place. That place. One of the things that I've learned and I've loved hearing over and over again is that there are no failures, there's lessons.
Yes. And this guy became a partner in my growth. I think it's really about reframing how we experience our reality, because I could look at him as an enemy, which doesn't really help me, or I could look at the situation as, okay, this was an opportunity at the same time as it may have been painful.
I love that. I love it. That's important. That's important that he was a partner in your growth. Had you not walked through what you walked through, had that not been part of your story, you wouldn't be where you are today because you allowed that to help you process into better. And I love that. I love that. And then moved to New York for a whole new chapter. It's like I was
Absolutely.
listening. I was like, okay, go girl. Go girl.
Building a new network, building a new life, it's there are always unlimited possibilities. We forget about this, that's such an important word, possibility.
That is. Your possibilities become your transformalities. They really do. It's like when you can envision greater possibilities, you can transform yourself into the greater, So I love that. Thank you. Tiffany, talk about where you are right now.
Wow, that's super encouraging. I just want to thank you for sharing that. One of the great takeaways is literally seeing if it's not going to serve me, why hold on, right? How is this going to serve me? And how can I take this experience? I say all the time, I don't go through anything, I grow through everything. And when we literally look at it as this was a growing space for you and for your business and for the expansion, there were people in New York waiting on your yes, right? And this person was a part of that process of getting you to those people that were waiting for you. So thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, it has been a true whirlwind, sis. As far as my story is concerned, I say that I got thrown in the deep end of the pool when it came to media. Filmmaking is something that I never really saw myself doing. However, that has been used as part of my story to help me to spread the story that God wants me to tell. So where am I at today? It is truly what Regina said. It's like this pivot space, right? Sometimes we get the opportunity to pivot to a new space, something that was already in the cards for us to do, but we just didn't see it at that time. And sometimes it takes those hard falls or those what could be challenging experiences in order to move us in the direction that we are to be going at this time. So right now it has been a pause, right? It's been that space of pause. When I talk about the yes effect, the effect of our yes, if we do not say yes to the things that we're called to, even when they don't make sense, then the effects of that yes are missed. And I say this is October. It is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And one part of my story is just that. And had I not said yes to my healing, I couldn't have said yes to telling the story. Had I not said yes to telling the story, I wouldn't have done the film. If I hadn't have done the film, I wouldn't have won an award. Had I not won an award, I wouldn't have been there when another young filmmaker came to me and said, "What do you do when you're in the middle of it?" Stopped and looked at her. I said, "Are you in an actively abusive situation now?" And she said, "Yes." I asked her if she was safe. She said, "I am for now." And I was able to help guide her to some resources and give her some inspiration and motivation to say something and to no longer be silent. But it all started with a yes. And that yes did not change when it got hard. That yes didn't change when I didn't see the results that I thought I should see in a shorter period of time. It is truly being focused on what that vision is, what that message is that you're called to send, and you just keep moving even when it doesn't look like what you think it's supposed to look like. So right now I am writing again. I am writing a script for going back to the Would You Marry You movement, because ultimately we're responsible for the part that we play, which is, piggybacking on what Regina said, is taking responsibility for that thing. So as we realize that we are the common denominator in every relationship, whether it be a romantic, business, or even within our family, understanding, being responsible for what we're bringing to the table. So that's where I'm at right now, is writing probably a version 2 of the book. I make sure that the retreats are still out there so that people can get in those small groups and allow the healing to start taking place so that they can move in sequence with what they're being called to do. And when it comes to leadership, taking responsibility, even as a leader, would you follow you?
Mhm.
Would you work with you?
Mhm.
Would you be your friend? Yeah, we're talking, would you marry you? But think about it. It's all across the board in every relationship, and especially in leadership, really getting to that space of shifting, looking at what self evaluation looks like. And then that H being humility, being humble, being honest, having honor for other people. What does integrity look like? What are you doing when nobody's looking? What are you doing when nobody sees what's going on? And then being able to focus so that you can transform yourself, your team, and all of the people that you're called to lead in this season. So it's been a whirlwind, a beautiful space of being poured into as well as pouring out, making sure there's somebody above and somebody coming behind me, and we're not leaving out anybody, being that link in the chain for other women that are going through those spaces, creating a safe place for leaders to come to. Who do you go to when things are going bad? We're always there for other people when something's going way haywire in their life, but where do you go when those days where you feel like quitting? Because I don't know about either one of you, but there have been days where I said, that's it. I'm done. I'm done. Shutting down everything.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, you finished throwing your temper tantrum? Get up and do it. Get up and do what you know you're supposed to do. But
Okay, that was fun. Now moving on.
and moving on. And who's in your corner? I just left a conference, and there was this one space where the champions in there and they're boxing, and they've done all of the workouts. They know what they're supposed to be doing, but they're getting weak. They're getting tired. They're running out of steam. And you got that corner person's like, "Hey, you only got 2 more minutes before the bell rings, and then you can rest." You got that person. You got your cut man that comes in and fixes up your cuts and say, "Get on back out there." Who's in your corner? Those are all very important things that I've had to learn, sometimes the hard way, but it has made me the person I am today. And someone asked me not long ago, if you could change anything about your life and things that you've done, good, bad, or indifferent, what would it be? And I said, absolutely nothing, because I would not be the person I am today had I not grown through all of the things I've grown through. So in this leadership space, we're networking. We have a panel here. There's a round table. We are all in these spaces of leadership of some sort.
Yeah.
Who's in your corner? Where can you get that encouragement? And how can I be of service to someone? How can I make your dreams come true? Because if I can make your dreams come true and we all look at it from that perspective, we would all get everything that we'd ever desired. So, would you marry you? The Yes Effect, your story matters, all of the things, however I can spread whatever message to help encourage others. That's what I'm doing in this season.
I really love everything that you just said, seriously, and everything that Regina said. It's in concert with one another. It's like a harmony, that flows through. Seriously, a friend of mine and we're starting a new endeavor for leaders, just as what you were saying, because everybody goes to the leaders. Where do the leaders go? So we're starting a new leadership executive retreat program to where leaders can come and de-stress and be poured into and built back up, where they can really, really come face to face with what is your leadership identity. And you cannot come face to face with your leadership identity until you come face to face with your story. Who are you? Are you leading while bleeding? It's like, are you being messy all over the people? Or are you seeing the gold in others? Are you helping to build a legacy through those that you are leading? So I love everything you said. I love it. I love it. I love it. Regina, I am intrigued with how you processed the rebuilding and rebirthing of dreams that you had that some could have said were lost because of what happened, but instead you rebuild. How did that process come about? Just so that others, they may be in that place of, okay, I've got to rebuild myself. I've got to come out of where I'm at to understand I can dream again. Taffany knows that's really important for me. You've got to be able to dream again, and you've got to understand, no matter at what age, that your dreams are valuable and viable. Okay, so help us with that.
Yeah, and I also wanted to build on what Taffany said earlier. She sometimes felt like giving up, and that's when there's a magical question that I love to ask, and it is simple. It's simply, what else is possible? Because as always, as I said before, an array of possibilities. In fact, limitless possibilities. And we forget about that because we are so schooled into thinking we only have two options, right or wrong, right? When we make a decision, this has to be the right decision, and there's a right and a wrong decision, but that's not really true. We just make a decision. We say yes, as Tiffany said before, to something, and then we make it work. And if it doesn't, there's always a possibility to pivot. There are always more possibilities. Sometimes we think we have only one option, but that is never true, never true. And that's also about that inner freedom. You know, that freedom that we all have inside of us if we just recognize it, just like the power we have inside of us, which is also limitless. To me, power is never about power over other people, because that's not true power. That can be taken away. Your inner power, no one can take that away. And that's why I also like to say no one can truly empower you but yourself. Because your power is already inside of you. And what does empower mean? It means placing power into you. No. It's already there. You just got to connect with it. So what else is possible? Also, and that maybe comes even before, how is this situation for me? How is this happening for me, not to me? Yes. Tiffany talked about something that I also want to pick up again, which is self-leadership. It has to do with everything I just said. Self-leadership. Self-leadership is the foundation for any effective and sustainable leadership of other people. Without it, it will never be sustainable, because as you show up as a leader, that makes all the difference, and it ripples off to other people. It ripples into your team, for example, right? So I like to talk sometimes about that leader shift. And the leader shift is that self-leadership that ripples into your team leadership and eventually into the entire organization, whether that's a small business or a large corporation, right? So that leader shift comes from one person can make that shift. And then it comes from one individual, and then it ripples off into other teams and areas. Now, what's also really, really important to remember as leaders is that it's super key to take good care of ourselves. When we do not do that, then we cannot show up as a great leader. Because when we are not making time for self-care, we will be worn out. We might even burn out, as some people call it. We might be overwhelmed and stressed out. And, you know, just like the good stuff has an effect on the people around you, the not so great stuff has too. So we really want to be sure to cultivate a powerful presence in that sense. It's super important to talk about energy more in business. we hardly ever talk about energy.
Mm.
When our energy flows into everything we think, we feel, we say, and we do.
Right.
So why don't we talk more about our energy? And I'm not just referring to the level of energy here. Yes, we all know we gotta get enough sleep and ideally also exercise and all that. However, what I'm really talking about here is the quality of our energy. How do we prepare for our meeting with our team or for a negotiation energetically? Because our energy precedes us.
Yes.
It shows up before we show up.
Yes.
It speaks faster than our words because it's already there. And why is that? Because it takes only 0.07 seconds for our brains to figure out whether we can trust someone. And that's about our energy, right? So it speaks faster than our words. And what's also true is that when our energy contradicts our words, it also speaks louder than our words. It gives us away, right? And so we must, as leaders, talk more about energy in the context of leadership presence and how we show up. That's my personal, very strong opinion, at least. And that's also why my leadership coaching is very, very holistic. I've put everything into this holistic, thriving leader formula, which I believe covers all the important areas of leadership, including self-leadership. And then with my clients, my private coaching clients, we pick and choose what's most relevant and what's most important to them from the individual elements of that formula, right? I've also created some other frameworks which are more geared towards team leadership, like the New Paradigm Leadership framework, for example. And that's really also about that leader shift that I spoke about earlier, about leading with heart, about recognizing that humans are the heart of any business, about really bringing in the mindset and going deep with it, about allowing your team to bring out their unique brilliance, and really giving them a chance to shine. And there's much more to it, but I think this covers a few of the elements.
I love it. I love it. Very, very important. I want to say to all of our attendees, if you have any questions for Regina or for Dr. Taffany, just please put them in the chat so we can cover it, because we're now on the wind down. And so I want to give the ladies time to just speak closing thoughts and encouragement to all of you wonderful ladies in empowerment leadership positions. So I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Taffany. And again, ladies, if you got any questions, just put them in the chat. And if any of you have joined us while we are already in process, please put your contact information in the chat, because this is about networking. This is not just about us. It's about networking one with another. So go ahead, Doctor.
I am super encouraged by something that Regina said, having the framework in place and exposing your clientele, and exposing your team, exposing your family, exposing whomever to all of the elements in a specific framework, and then giving them an opportunity to say, hey, that's where I really need to come in at. That's where I really need help at. I've accomplished this particular thing, but now I'm actually struggling in this area, and have that safe place where we can be vulnerable. I think that has been one of the biggest things that I have found, which is why I love doing retreats. Retreats are usually smaller in number. You can attack things from a whole different space. Each person has the opportunity to pour into each other. It's not just I'm the leader and I'm pouring in. It's bringing people together to be able to do life together in a whole different way. People that they would have never been introduced to, people that they may have never even known, are all in this one beautiful, small environment environment in order to serve one another. I absolutely love retreats. And also, even in the coaching, that was one of the places, and I kind of want to hear your take on this, Regina, especially, and with Dr. Colette as well, is as a coach, I personally have gone back and forth between one-to-one clients versus group clients, and how that looks, right? How it looks, and seeing the impact thereof, right? Because we're all on a journey that we won't complete until we cross over. But what this journey looks like as far as the impact, as far as the effect, you talked about the ripple effect of what we do. What does that look like for you guys when it comes to the one-to-one versus the group coaching, small groups, and larger group coaching spaces? Each person on your team, in your groups, as your clients or whatever, gets the opportunity to say, this is where I learn best. This is where I feel I will thrive best. But I do want to kind of throw that back at you guys, if that's okay, Dr. Colette, to just kind of get your take on what that looks like for you. For me, it has been the smaller, and it is the smaller groups that I have seen the most effective impact on their lives, as well as mine, because you know how it is in leadership, right? We go out to serve other people and we end up getting served the whole time. Like, it is just, it is this sowing and reaping thing that happens all the time, no matter where you're at. You always get something back for what you're getting out. But can I just throw that back at you guys and get your take on that to see how that has worked for you guys?
Well, go ahead, Regina. I'll let you answer first.
Yeah, I think both, the small groups and the individual coaching has its advantages. And I have worked with some clients who were very, very peculiar about confidentiality. They didn't even want to communicate by email with them, with me, because they were afraid that somebody might read those emails. And others go to their manager and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing this coaching program with Regina. Isn't that great? And I think it is, because then the manager can recognize and acknowledge that they are investing in their own growth. But there are people who are very concerned about this confidentiality. So they would probably never come to a group with what they're working on. So I think it depends, also on personal preferences of the individual clients. Some really thrive in that group coaching environment, and others really love to be in that one-on-one setting. Also, what I really like in terms of group, I agree with you, the small groups, definitely more effective, I think. And then a mastermind. That's what I've done a few times. Like, I've offered a mastermind setting where it might be a little bit less, or feel a little bit less vulnerable, right? In terms of, I'm disclosing this and that. Now, with some of my clients who are open to it, I go very deep with the subconscious. And I think that is just more easily done in a private setting.
Yes.
Absolutely. I love one-on-ones. I do, because it's personal. It's personally tailored. When I do my women retreats, I limit the number that can attend to 15. And normally I have right at 10. But I limit it because I want the ability to pour into each one of them and to meet them where they are. In a group setting, a larger group setting, it can stir things within people, because you have not just your voice being put out there, but others have the opportunity to share as well. And I believe that each one of us has an important piece to bring to the table. So I like the group setting from that perspective, but normally what that does is morph into the individual setting, because they've heard something, they've shared something, or what have you, and now they want to go deeper. Like you were saying, Regina, they want to go deeper. They want to understand more. And I'm really big on identity. Until you can go within you and come face to face with you and who you are, then it's very, very difficult for you to go out and try to lead others. Like I said at the top of the hour, when you're leading while bleeding, you're messy. And until you can like go down to the root of, well, why do I do what I do? And then so you have to trace it to the root. And once you can trace it, now you can face it. And if it's something that is not acceptable once you face it to yourself, now you can erase it and replace it with something that's better. And I think that's why your story is so important, because just as an example, a few years ago, I went to a retreat. It wasn't mine, but we were dealing with tracing different characteristics and traits that we had within ourselves and trying to get to, well, why am I like that? Why do I do that? And for me, mine was being in survival mode all the time. And it was like, you know, I was that Malcolm X girl that was like, by any means necessary, I will survive. Okay. I will survive. Right. But I had to trace, where did that come from? Why was I always in that mindset, right? And I traced it back. This is just a short story. Since we're sharing our stories, this is a short story. I traced it back to when I was 7 years old. When I was 7 years old, my father died. And he represented my protection, my security, the one that validated me, the one that taught me my worth. Now, my mother was great and everything, but it was my father that was that one. And once he was gone, I felt I did not have protection any longer. And at 7 years old, I made an inner vow to protect myself. And that went with me through life. I was an only child, you know, my mother and I had a very tumultuous relationship. And so it was, for me, it was where that started. And I had carried it all through my life. Until we can understand where something begins, we can't do a shift. You know, I mean, and it's good to be able to protect yourself, but it's also good to have vulnerable moments where you can let somebody in. Because if you're too staunched and you're too protected, then you'll never let anybody else into your space. And for me, it was like, okay, God, I can trust you, but I'm not trusting nobody else. I have major trust issues. I am so serious to anybody, okay? Just because I had walked through betrayals and different things. So it was major trust issues. I had not did what you did, Regina, in the just growth, like switch it over. Okay, let's move on to the next. I moved on, but I moved on with this weight on me.
That is so powerful, because mine was 4 years old. I was kidnapped at gunpoint at 4. So it truly started that self-protection. And when you have self-protection, you don't let people in. And I think that the most powerful thing in that is being able, like you said, to get to the root, because I could cut down the weed all day long. I had done that. I cut the weed down, keep moving, allow somebody in only to a certain point, right? There still was this whole space that you can't get within an arm's reach, because I didn't know where I was safe. So if you don't know where you're safe, and mine was, you know, family as well. If you don't know where you're safe, then you cannot allow that wall to come down enough for anybody to even pour in effectively.
Right.
And that automatically creates a barrier for you. You know, we talk about boundaries all the time, right? There are some good boundaries and there's some not so good boundaries as well. And so when we understand that, and not just cutting the weeds down at the top, but actually going to the root and finding out, why do I get frustrated so easy? Why do I light switch people? I call it light switching people. Like, you can be on my good side 1 minute and my bad side the next. Like, I'm done. Like, that was the way that I handled things, because it was a protection thing. If I let you in too close, I see a red flag, I see a pink flag. I didn't even wait till it got red. I'm out, you know. So that is not a healthy space to be in. And especially when it comes to leadership, if we see a team member, a subordinate, or anyone else, and they give us that slightest little red flag, instead of me being able to say, hey, what's really going on? Have empathy for them in that season. If I'm operating out of that lens, that covered lens, through the lenses of I can't trust, or you're going to hurt the team or whatever, and not truly opening up to find out what's really going on with that team member, what's really going on with that employee, what's really going on with that family member, what's really going on with that spouse. Let's get real. What's really
Mhm.
going on with that friend, and see, okay, oh, wait a minute. I'm looking through the lenses of I can't trust, instead of having that healed and whole space where I can see what's really going on and then be able to help them through the process because
Yes.
I've lived it.
Yes.
Right. May I add to something to what you both said, actually, because I think there's a list of very important points that you mentioned, right? So first of all, when you were 7 or 4 years old, it wasn't just that the protection was gone. It's also as if for a child, usually it's as if somebody let you down at the same time,
Mhm.
even though it makes no logical sense, right?
Mhm.
But
Correct.
that's also another feeling that comes up typically. And then we feel double unsafe. And it's all about feeling safe in the end, and also about not being able to express our emotions, because trauma is nothing but suppressed emotion.
Mhm.
You know, we always think that trauma has to be something really dramatic, which in both your cases it was, right? Not playing that down in any way. But sometimes it's not even, it doesn't even need to be that dramatic. Sometimes it's something small. And as a child, we feel anger, sadness, or fear inside, but we are not able or not allowed to express it. And that's when it gets stuck. The emotion
You don't
gets
even
stuck.
know how to express it. That's why it's so dangerous.
Right. So here's the thing, there are ways to do this. And there's ways to transmute those emotions by, for example, breathing through them, right? Instead of suppressing them, because if we keep suppressing them, they will not ever get digested. And that's when they actually become some of our biggest blockers. We talk so much about limiting beliefs, but we forget about our emotions. They can block us even more. And
Mhm.
we often do not think about this. Right? But we can transmute our emotions. Why? Because emotions are energy. We can transmute energy. And
Which
that's
is so
very
powerful
important.
for them to for us to be able to identify that in our children or those people that are around us, that we're in positions when it comes to leadership, whether it be that we're a parent, an aunt, a friend, or an
Mhm.
employer, whatever that is. If we're able to identify that now, since we're in a space of being healed and whole, we can see it a little bit different and be able to help other process. I remember reading a book that the what is the body keeps the score. And
Mm.
I did not understand that perception
Mhm.
of understanding, being able to allow the emotion to truly flow all the way through us and out. Because if not, like you said, it gets trapped. And it was so important at that point, now understanding that, like, when I do feel anything, it's an immediate transformation. Like you were saying, now you can transform that and allow that in that negative energy to leave, that emotion to leave, flow through the body, do what it needs to do, and then move on. Because if not, it just keeps getting packed on. Like you were saying, Dr. Colette, it's like you have this weight of 1,000 pounds of weight that you're
Mhm.
carrying with you
Mhm.
now into the next thing. You
Mhm.
cannot continue to do that and be the best at what you're called to do.
No.
So that's really powerful, Regina.
Yes, and we also need to remember we're talking about, oh, sorry. I got excited here.
No, go.
This is because we're talking about stories, they're so important. However, we also have stories that can hold us hostage. And on
Yes.
the other hand, we have the stories that can heal and inspire. The
Mm.
difference lies in how we choose to relate to those stories, especially to
Mhm.
ourselves also. And
Mhm.
that's what I also mean with, sometimes it's a good idea to neutralize our stories or our experiences and just turn them into reframing them, right? And turning them into experiences or situations that we can then work with. Right.
You
And
know,
that's one.
when I wrote, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, now it's your turn.
When I wrote my book, Snapshots of My Life, I said in the introduction of the book, because it took me years. I've got 8 books, and most of them I just wrote like this. That one took me years. And the reason was because the pages became therapy for me. Because as I was writing the stories, I had to relive them. And some of the perceptions that I had when I was in the midst of the story now were different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, when you can step out of being in the hot seat and look back at it, it's different. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I really felt such and such when I was going through this, but as I look at it in retrospect, it really wasn't that at all. It really wasn't that at all. And so I'm appreciating everything that both of you ladies are sharing, because it ties so vehemently in your story. And it's not like Regina, you said something so powerful. Your story can hold you hostage.
Mm-hmm.
It can hold you hostage because you're still living in the perception of what it was when you were in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Instead of stepping out of the middle of it and looking back. Hindsight is 2020. I mean, you can look back and say, you know what? They didn't even mean me any harm. I just, because I had it turned pink even before it got red, okay? And it was a trigger, it was a flag, and it was just like, like, you know, you immediately go into defense mode, you shut it out, and it's just like, that's it, that's over. Nope, no. So it's like we're running out of time, but I think you ladies had such excellent points that you put out here dealing with our stories. Our stories are so important, and it's important first to us to not be held hostage by them, to not see it, oh, that was my failure, that was my downfall, that was this, that, and the other, but just hearing, you know what, this was all part of my storyline. And though it may not have defined me as I might have let it do for some time, it did shape and mold me to be who I am today, when I can revisit it and see it through clear lenses, not cloudy lenses. Now I can look back and say, you know what? I can own some of the things that I put on everybody else. Now, some of the things really was somebody else's fault, okay? But I can even own that in, I can forgive them. I can move on. Unforgiveness holds you hostage to that part of your story. You know, if I'm going to get past what happened and what was done to me, I gotta let it go. I'm not going to carry this weight any longer. I'm not going to just be in that woe is me mentality because I experienced what I experienced. It happened. It may have been catastrophic at that time. I am not making light of that. Okay. But it happened. It is not happening. And so I can't change that, but I can change today. I can change the fact that I can move forward. I can change the fact that I can dream again. I can be who I was created to be, and that is a person of value and of worth, and somebody's answer to their predicament. I say that all the time. We are the answer to somebody. We may not be for everybody. I get it. You know, I'm not for everybody. I'm not trying to be. But I know that there is a people that I have been called to, that I am the answer in the fact that I can help them through what they're experiencing. And so I have to, you know, look at it from that perspective. All right, ladies, your goodbyes. You'll find me here. I've tried to post your link and everything, but it is time. We're out of time. So, Regina? Go for it.
Yeah, my goodbye. So first of all, it's also about changing the perception of your story, right? So I really love that you were sharing this. It's about changing the perception of what you experienced. And an experience never defines anybody's worth. I want to give a few reminders as my goodbye. It does not dictate your future unless you let it. Self-forgiveness, you mentioned forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is often the hardest part, and we really got to do that too and move through that process so that it becomes the transformation we wish for. When you neutralize your experiences, when you work with your emotions and remind yourself that your worth is endless, it's indescribable, and it's dramatic and beautiful, remind yourself that your inherent power is unlimited and that your possibilities are infinite. That's when you actually reclaim authorship of your life, and you can now create something new with awareness, with greater awareness than you had before, something that's aligned with who you truly are in your essence.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Regina, for all the wealth and the riches that you have shared with us today. I so appreciate you. Dr. Taffany?
Yeah, thank you so much, Regina. Thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Colette. I want to say that a journey to truth, right? Disowning the lies that you believe about yourself, because we basically operate in alignment with what we believe about ourselves. So if we believe that we're not good enough, we're going to operate like we're not good enough. We can't move into the fullness of who we are and not see the results of that when we really do it from the heart. Disown the lies. It was your story. It is your story. You can't erase that part. But what is the lesson that you learned?
Mm.
What is the lies that you believed about yourself based on that experience? And then seek the face of the Lord for what his truth is. Because ultimately he's the creator. He know what he created. What's his truth about who you are? But what is the lesson that you learned? Good lessons and bad lessons, because all of them are part of your story. But ultimately, it's his story. It's history. It's over.
It's history.
Right?
It is
His story.
history.
It's his story. So you can
Thank
find
you,
me
ma'am.
at journeywithtaffany.com. That's probably the easiest place to find me. You'll get to learn a little bit about me, see some projects that I have going on, be able to connect with me on whatever level that you want to connect, and also be able to find a few digital products that I have out there, some for free. So go and check me out there.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you for all the participants that have attended. I appreciate you. We do this once a month, usually on the second Tuesday of the month, unless something sways me from being there. Like next month, I'll be on a ship. So we'll probably do it on the third Tuesday next month. But anyway, the whole premise of this is just for us to form a sisterhood. I love, that's why I love the lioness so much. She is the only big cat that works in connection with one another. They have a sisterhood. They take care of their own tribes and their pride. They take care of their cubs. They hunt together. They look out for each other. They protect each other. And that is the whole premise of us understanding that we as women have to come together arm in arm, supporting one another, collaborating one with another, and not competing with each other. That's the whole purpose of this. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for putting your contact information in the chat. This will stay live. Well, it won't be live, but it'll stay on LinkedIn. And it's also on my YouTube channel. If you have anybody that you think that can benefit from the discussion that we had today, I'm really grateful for my guests, because this has been invaluable. This has been amazing. Next month, we're going to be talking about technology and how technology plays such a pivotal place in our society today. It's not something that we need to fear. It's something that we need to learn so we can use it as a tool. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you again to my guests and to all of the attendees for being a part of today's networking event. See you next time. Bye-bye.